Okay, so I've got a beat here that is mostly finished. I just need to arrange it, mix it, and master it. So let's start by splitting the pattern and then copy it over. And then I think I want like one of these sections to be a hook and then one to be a verse or vice versa. So let's move this up. And then I want some sort of an intro which has basically everything, but things kind of slowly fade in. So let's... And then it hits it. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the kicks and 808s and take any out that are after the main snare clap at the end of the phrase. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my hi-hats. And the reason I do that is so that we can have these little moments of like more quietness kind of like in between. Like that. So you have like a little bit of a transition moment almost. Okay, so let's take out the crash on this part. And then something that I sometimes do and sometimes don't is if I take a sound out, I will make it go a little bit crazy a little bit before it comes back in a little bit later. So let's try something like this. And then let's play with the panning so it kind of goes left and right. Yeah, something like that. And then let's, for this middle section, take out anything that's not completely necessary. Let's see what it sounds like without the kick. Okay, let's try the kick and not the 808. Let's copy and paste this. Actually, we need a bridge. So actually, what I can do, instead of making a bridge and duplicating this, I can actually change the order of what I'm doing. So let's actually change our mind here. Let's make the 808s start this way, and then they kind of fade out towards the end, and then it's just a kick, and then it comes back in. So let's make this the quiet section. I still think I want this idea. It may not work if I want this to be the quiet section, but we'll see, you know. Let's take out the hats at the beginning here, just for fun. And then, like I said, we can just copy and paste this over, and let's see how it sounds like transition-wise. So let's start here. Yeah, I think I like that. Then we can do like an outro thing. And this is what the bridge probably would have been. Is it just a little bit of everything and then some halftime? Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, I think I like that. So basically in this arrangement, I skipped on the bridge, but I still did the same sort of outro that I normally do, where I just kind of have everything and then I throw a halftime on it, because that normally sounds pretty cool. So I think we're about ready to start mastering it. Okay, so I think we're ready to master everything. So let's take all of our sounds. So all of my melodies, my 808s, all of my drum sounds, to put them all on one channel. Then put on my pre-master chain. And we'll begin. So I'm starting by cutting the low lows as well as the high highs. And I'm also kind of boosting the bass frequencies. So the first couple of things in my chain are instances of Maximus. And in each one, I'll be doing basically the same thing, just with different band placements. So in this first one, I'll have 50 hertz and below, and then 10K and above. And I'm also compressing in varying amounts. Another thing that you might want to note is my lows are always being merged by 10% and my highs are always being separated by 10%. So, well, let's begin. Okay, so my goal for 50 hertz and below is to make sure my low end is getting at least to this point, and the majority of the time I'm actually going well above it, which is a good thing. But I do want to push a little bit more into this compressor so that some of this quieter stuff does get up to that level, and also to make sure that I'm not, you know, getting too loud at any given point. So that's what the compressor's there for. Let's go up a little bit. On the 50 hertz and below for this instance, I'm not going to level match, but on the majority of the other ones I am. And the reason I'm not level matching here is because I'm getting my low end to where I want it to be. Something else I'm going to do at this point is put a node about as low as it will go. And then I'm going to make the stuff that's on the quietest end a little bit quieter, just to make sure that anything that's like residual kind of hanging on gets taken out or gets a little bit quieter. And then I'm going to do the opposite for the louder stuff. I'm going to make the louder stuff a little bit louder. Let's go to the mids. I pushed up by 0.7. Let's pull it back by 0.7. Let's go to the highs. Pushed up by 0.7. Let's pull it back by 0.7. Let's go to the master. I'm also not going to level match on the master because I'm not changing the balance here. We're just increasing the volume of the entire track. Let's go to the second instance. The difference here will be my band placement. So my bands, instead of being down by 50, it's now up by 175. And then instead of by 10K, I've been brought up to 5K. Pushed up by 0.6. Let's pull it back by 0.6. Let's go to the mids. Pushed up by 0.8. Let's pull it back by 0.8. Let's go to the highs. And I pulled this back by 0.7, so let's push this up by 0.7. Let's go to the master. And I'm actually already compressing quite a bit on the master here, so I might want to push just a tiny bit more. Let's go to the next instance. Now in this third instance of Maximus, the process will be the same, but my band placement will change again. Also, how I change the bands will change. So in this case, I'm soloing my mid band, and I want to move my bands in until I don't really hear the kick or the 808, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the high band until I don't really hear the hi-hats anymore, and then do the same process. I pushed up by 0.8, let's pull it back by 0.8, let's go to the mids. Now in the mids here, I am going to use the expansion function to make my snare clap a little bit louder. Just this because I didn't push or pull the volume at all. Let's go to the highs. Same thing with the highs. I'm happy with that. I didn't push or pull volume. Let's go to the master. 0.6 is probably fine. Okay. Oh, and something else I'm going to start doing. On the master of this last one, I'm going to put a node about as low as it can go, and then a node about as high as it can go without being as high as the side of, being compressed. And then I'm going to give these areas a little bit of a boost. So it's going to hopefully make the loud stuff a little bit louder, as well as anything that's in this quieter range, just a little bit louder as well. Let's go to our next couple of things. We've got some patcher presets. This one's for stereo, so my lows are being put in mono, my highs are being put in the separated field, and then you can kind of play with the middle dials to taste. The other patcher preset I have is a mid-side EQ. So I'm cutting the sub-bass frequencies on the sides, and then I'm also kind of boosting the bass frequencies a little bit. I'm also cutting the high-highs. And then on just the mids, I've got a limiter, which is adding a little bit of saturation onto the top, as well as limiting a little bit. And then I've also got an EQ. And then I have a wave shaper, which is a hard clipper, and I'm pushing 5% extra volume into this hard clipper. And because of that, because I'm clipping off some signal, I can actually come to this pretty limiter that's after it and push 0.3 decibels of extra volume without actually limiting at all. So if we zoom in, we can see that we're not actually limiting at all, even though I just pushed 0.3 extra decibels of volume. And I was previously getting up to 0. Okay, so let's go to our master chain now. Okay, on the master preset, I've got 2 compressors and a limiter, and this compressor is almost all the way mixed out almost all the time, and that's because the settings are a bit ridiculous. It's got 0 attack, slower release, 3-to-1 ratio, but then I'm bringing the threshold way down and then cranking the gain way up. So I'm essentially way over compressing the signal here, which is why it's mixed almost entirely out. This one is a little bit more normal. Sometimes I'll have this one mixed all the way on. Sometimes I'll have it mixed halfway on. I've even had it turned off in the past. It just depends on the track, but let's just listen to what this sounds like. I think for now I'll leave it about halfway mixed on, and then I'll come back later if the track isn't loud enough, and I'll mix it on all the way, and then we'll, make decisions from there. But for now, let's go to our next couple of things in our chain. We've got our patcher preset, and then Maximus. This is another of the same thing for the stereo field, and I'm doing essentially the same thing. And then I'm doing the same thing in Maximus. I'm going to solo my midband just like I did in the third instance of Maximus previously. And I'm going to do the same thing and move the bands in until I can't really hear the kick or the 808 anymore, as well as until I can't hear the hi-hats anymore. going to use the expansion function again to kind of boost my snare clap a little bit more. Okay, and then the last couple of things in our chain are a soft clipper, a limiter, and then a Boolean loudness meter. So I'm going to use the limiter to tell me about how much I think I can push some volume into that soft clipper, and then after that we're going to look at our volumes and see if, you know, we're loud enough or too loud or whatever the case is. Okay, so it looks like we can push about that far. We can push about 1 decibel. So let's put that back where it was. Let's turn on the soft clipper, and then we're going to push 1 decibel of volume into the soft clipper. So the signal is getting boosted by 1 decibel. It goes into the soft clipper, and then we're going to see it here. Okay, and then the last thing in the chain is a loudness meter. So I'm going to turn this on, and then I'm going to let the beat run for a little bit before when it drops, and then I'll let the whole thing play. And I'm looking for a couple of things. I'm looking for my integrated LUFS, which is telling me about how loud my track is overall, my short-term LUFS, which tells me how loud it is, obviously, in the short term, and then I'm also looking at the true peak max, which is right here, to make sure that I'm not getting above 0. Oh, and if you notice that I'm using this tool incorrectly at any point, feel free to let me know in the comments. Okay, so it looked like we were about where we wanted to be. So I'm going to turn this off for now. And again, I don't know if I cut this out of the video, so I'll say it again. If you notice that I'm using this tool, the loudness meter, incorrectly, feel free to let me know down in the comments, as well as for any other plugins, because I'm mostly, aside from the loudness meter, I'm mostly using stock plugins. So if you notice I am using one incorrectly, or maybe there's something I'm not using that would be cool to use, feel free to throw that in the comments as well. But yeah, so if you have any questions about part of this process, feel free to throw that in the comments as well. Just throw everything in the comments, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed and dislike if you didn't. So yeah, I'm going to let the beat run and have a good one.